This is the Great Rebaters. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whoever is tuning in. We are live and direct at the Enable headquarters in Toronto, Canada. And I am with my partner in crime, Mark Gillum. Markham. I call him Markham. Mark Gillum. We are off to a great start. And Markham is a town in Ontario. So if anyone's tuning in, that's my hometown. So that's kind of why I brought it together. Anyways, Mark, how are you?
I'm really good, Reggie. Pleased to be here. Not quite in Markham, but we're close. Streaming live from Toronto. What could go wrong? Probably everything, as it has done so far. And sorry to everybody, we have been running a little bit late. Technical challenges, but we're live. And we're pleased to be here because we have an amazing guest for you today. Who do we have, Reggie?
We have no other than Jeffrey Moyle, CEO of Rexel Canada. And man, we've had him on the show before, but it was virtual. And I'm super excited because we actually have him in person. He's not a hologram. He's not AI. He's a real human being. So what are you most excited to hear about Jeff? Tell the people. What are you excited about?
I think there's a couple of things. Jeff's, he's had some big news lately. He's, he's an inspirational guy. When he speaks, people listen. I'm looking forward to doing a bit of Q&A with him. Following the last time I did Q&A with him at our annual conference, where he came up with some great questions. So I'm really looking forward to getting him on the sofa, returning that favor, and really, teasing out what goes on in Jeff's mind.
So you mentioned exciting news. Are we talking about car insurance, or are we talking about something else?
Yeah, I think he got his renewal a little bit cheaper this year. He was he was delighted with that. I think I saw that on LinkedIn. He's cheaper car insurance. I mean, who doesn't celebrate that?
This show may or may not be sponsored by Geico. So Geico, if you're watching this, shout out to you. All right, so let's bring on our guest, our featured guest of the day, Jeffrey Moyle. Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Oh, sit here. Sit here.
Thank you.
So how you doing, man?
I'm good. Very convenient. I live 1 mile away from here, so thank you for putting your offices so close to my house. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
We do whatever it takes at Enable.
I appreciate that also. Also notice the socks. You should show it at home, your socks. They are quite nice. Yeah, no, and Reggie's, yeah. You guys are doing well. Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't make that Enable money, so I can't afford nice socks like that. I apologize. So, yeah.
But you're making different type of money now.
Canadian Tire money converts evenly, actually. Yeah, so Canadian dollars. Yeah. There you go.
I love it. So, we should talk about the latest and greatest news, shall we?
Yeah.
With what's going on with Jeff. So, there was an announcement not too long ago.
That's right.
What was it, last month?
Last month, that's right.
So, apparently, Rexel made a decision to give you a new title.
That's right.
So congratulations, because you are now the CEO of Rexel Canada. So tell us about that. How does that make you feel?
Well, there's a lot of feelings. First is nausea, where you get really nervous. Then you realize that pizza boy has turned into a pizza man, and he has to go to work every day and represent 2,300 people in over 200 locations and a big part of our business globally. So once that nausea phase passes on, you come to reality and you throw a little water on the face. And truthfully, I'm actually quite honored to do that job and represent everybody in Canada and also in North America and our company. We have lots to contribute to the Canadian business climate. If you just look behind you, you notice there's a building being built right behind us, and I know for a fact that we have products in that building. So it's nice to walk around the streets of Toronto and just see the effects of what we do every single day. So it's a really good feeling. Hopefully that answers your question.
It certainly does. We got to pass the mic.
Oh yes, I understand.
But,
I'm an only child, so.
No. We saw the news and we're excited for you, right? I don't think it was a no-brainer because when we saw it, we're like, okay, this makes sense. You know, he's buttoned down. He knows his stuff. He's a leader, natural leader. He's got vision. He's got good hair. He's tall.
Are you describing Mark or?
I might be describing Mark. And Mark, like, what were your initial thoughts when Jeffrey got that appointment?
Well, I think the first thing, so I reached out to you on LinkedIn to say congratulations. I was a little bit worried that we wouldn't be friends anymore. Now you're at these new levels, and you put my mind at ease, and I think kind of warmly reminded me that that'll never happen. So thank you for that, because I was a little bit worried, and yeah, I think it's just amazing when you see people in your professional community, and giving opportunities, and I love the way you initially positioned that you represent 2,300 people, and that for me, that says it all. That says why this is the right role, because you don't command 2,300 people. You're just that one, you're the extra person at the top. So given the role and everything, what was the first time when you logged in and you're doing a job and you're like, wow, this is actually, this is different?
You know what? I think it was probably when I responded to you saying thank you very much. To be really honest with you, no, it might be because I know you're in UK time, so you're probably pretty early in my inbox. But it was probably one of our European colleagues when I wrote back, and I thought to myself, I was like, not in a million years would I be responding saying thank you very much for congratulating me for this accomplishment, because it felt very surreal. So I think it was probably that first day, second day, and only now after about 4 weeks do I feel fairly comfortable in a good spot. We've had a great month. It's been a good month onboarding into the role. I mean, the term onboarding is probably a bit of a misnomer. It was I've known that business. I've been in the business. I've known it quite well for 8 years. It's more just kind of reacclimatizing myself in different departments. HR is a good example, finance, and some of the areas that I wasn't necessarily involved in. But I think over that first day certainly was that moment. It was oh my God, this is really happening. And I guess I have to change my signature on the bottom of my emails, and I don't know how to do that. So there's a bit of anxiety there. So you only do it once every couple of years, right? So you're like, how do you do this? I actually had to go to Google it and watch through like an old man, but it was fine. I got there. So so hopefully that answers your question. Yeah. There you go.
So when you think about career progression, and you've been a huge advocate for Enable, and again, we always appreciate you for that, and obviously still paying homage by coming here today. Talk to us a little bit about what that career progression looked like, especially when you take into account just that aspect of rebate management. I know that was kind of like one area to your entire scope that you have, because it's very broad, but how did that kind of help prepare you for that next step? What were some of the key aspects of the rebate management world that you could actually see taking with you into this new role that's going to help not just yourself, but the other people that you're going to be managing?
Right. Yeah. So interesting. So my career at Rexel stemmed from being very operational. So I was running a business unit that had warehouses and moved product around. And then after about 4 years of doing that, I moved in what I would call like an executive function, a little bit more removed from the movement of boxes and collection of money in a transactional sense, into supplier strategy and digital strategy. So those came together quite nicely with Enable. On one hand, we had what I'll call, for lack of better words, a broken process. Quite manual, and on top of that, very manual and very inaccurate. So you would see the cascading effects of that through our business. Meaning, if I couldn't get my accruals accurate, then I would be undermining a business that might be flourishing. By undermining it, then they would have to make operational cuts to allow that to produce an EBIT number, and that would particularly take the form of headcounts and facilities. So there was a knock-on effect by not doing that process properly. And I quickly realized that at that point, to make this a very seamless and pain-free experience, we needed to automate that process. And that's how I came cross paths with Andrew and Enable very early on. And what I realized after that point is something that was very painful for my company that actually became a source of strength. And I take that learning, which is really your question, going forward, and I have many different versions of that through my company where things are very painful, but they don't have to be. They're only painful because we've made it that way, because we have a few processes that overlap and not a lot of clarity on what the goal is. So that's one big lesson I took away from our experience together, truthfully, and we've been together for 4 years. I don't hear people complaining in my company about our rebates anymore. It's crystal clear. And we moved on to the next issue. And there are many issues, and if you have a good HRS system, I'd like to talk to you about that, but that's a whole other subject altogether. But it is a really nice transition, this experience, into what happens next, because it does show with just a little bit of clarity and foresight, then you can solve these problems. It actually is quite easy if you have the will to do it. So hopefully that answers your question for you.
Beautifully. You answered that marvelously.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten lunch yet either, so... No, I kid. No, hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does.
Yeah.
So you've been there for about a month. Normally people wait a little bit longer to ask this question, but if you could go back now to speak to yourself just 1 month ago, is there some advice you'd already be giving yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would probably tell myself to negotiate better, ask for more money. More money, more vacation, bigger office. I want 2 showers in there, not 1. No, I'm kidding. No, the one advice would be, actually happened quite early. We had a bit of, right after Christmas, a bit of a sales slump, right? And, it had been a while since I've been in a sale, responsible for sales directly in such a clear way. What I told myself at that point was be patient. Right, so week 1 goes by, week 2 goes by, week 3 goes by, and guess what? At the end of the month, we've had one of our better months of all time. So I could have flown off the handle very early, like a maniacal leader would, but it was really about patience. I had to tell myself that a few times along the way. Just be patient. It's a long year. You don't lose your cool in the first 5 days. It's like looking at a captain at a sailboat. You don't freak out on the first wave. Yeah. That's the one thing, and that's an internal mantra I do tell myself every day. Just be patient. There's something about strategic patience that holds through, and that's what I would tell myself. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, perfectly.
So Jeff, you talked about clarity. I think that's powerful, right? Especially when you get into a role such as this one at the top, where you have to kind of look across all the various business units and try to figure out, okay, well, where are gaps, right? And then understanding how do you prioritize those gaps. What is your process for, doing that quick scan of the entire org that you're managing? And then how do you, go about prioritizing the many facets of the operations that you're managing?
Well, I think the easy answer is, where do I get the most emails? Who calls me the most, right? Let's be honest. There's somebody who said about inbox management that tells you the pulse of a company. Most people will send an email saying, I am dissatisfied about this particular topic. Most people won't walk up to you and say, hey, Reggie, I hate your shirt you're wearing today, although I do love it. But I would text you that I hate your shirt, but I don't hate your shirt. But how do I prioritize really just comes down to emails. Emails and communication, right? And where I see the bumps at night. The second part is where do I make the most money, right? What?
I can imagine your mailbox right now.
They love Reggie's shirt. I've already got a few texts, so just to be honest. But no, it's really where the most emails come from and where we make the most money. It's really what it is, right? So I want to take the pain away from where we're successful and make them more successful, and also where we're struggling. And every business struggle, and we have certain areas of our business that struggle. I want to make them a little bit more efficient to allow them to succeed. So that's what I look at, is sort of where the emails come from, where the noise is coming from, for lack of better words, and where were we most profitable. Inversely, where are we the least profitable? And I kind of focus on those two and allow the middle to flourish as a result of just being a bit more efficient throughout. I mean, there's a lot of buzzwords there, and if you're listening at home thinking, this guy's not saying much, it's true, but I think of it in 3 different stratus: high, middle, and low, and each one has a different recipe. Right? You're not going to treat someone that's struggling really at the bottom of the list the same as you would someone at the top, and vice versa for the middle class. And you just need to have a different approach for all the segments all the way through. Hopefully that answers the question for you, because to me it's very clear, but it comes across kind of convoluted sometimes. So.
No, it makes perfect sense.
Oh yes,
right? It makes perfect sense in terms of the way that you put it. Right? It's who's making the most noise. So if you heard it, anyone in Rexel Canada, if you're not making enough noise, it's not going to be on Jeff's radar. So make more noise. But then you mentioned in terms of profitability, and that makes more sense, right? It's where can we get the most bang for our buck in terms of putting more attention and focus on either growing a specific area or looking at an area that's under indexed, and like you said, might be at the low level, but how could we kind of dig into that, find out some value that we could extract and grow, so that at the end of the day, because business has to continue to evolve, right?
That's right. And just a little on top of that, business definitely needs to evolve. And I think your company is a really good example of a business that's evolved. I've been in this space a couple times, and every time I'm here, it has certainly evolved all the way through. And my company is no different. What we're evolving towards being more of a highly efficient sales organization, right? Sales is a focus of ours. So taking kind of some of our assets that might not be producing as well as we thought and translating that into sales. And that can take many different forms. It can be digital. It can be person branch to branch, which is a strength of ours. It also can be sort of social media type selling, and I think we're moving towards that. I see our suppliers and our competitors getting into more of these what I'll call sort of stories. They have these narrations out there, and it's a very passive thing. So I see ourselves evolving in that direction. There's a part in our business we'll be 50% digital. We're at 30 right now, so we'll be pushing towards 50 very, very soon, and that's fantastic. We have one company that's 107 years old, another that's 78 years old. So for those businesses to be that agile, to be that digital, it speaks a lot for the management of those organizations. So hopefully that turns down the noise a little bit.
No, I love that. And Mark, I'm going to pass it to you, but there's one thing that he mentioned in terms of the evolution of where Rexel's going, and that especially that digital space. And I love that progression. There's something that you mentioned in terms of narration and how, people or organizations package that story, and we've talked about that even this week. It's about how do we simplify the message, especially when it comes to complexities of managing rebates or just managing an entire org like you're managing right now. We think it's highly, highly, highly valuable. I often find, and just this is a personal speak of mine, a lot of organizations overcomplicate things. They overcomplicate the value. They overcomplicate the output of what they're trying, or the problem that they're trying to solve. But at the end of the day, humans, really resonate with something that's simple. How do I have a problem? Do you have a solution? Okay, what's that solution? How do I apply that? So good on you guys.
Yeah, and I think as you were speaking, I was thinking it is when you're looking to do business. You're actually doing business, yes, with a company, but also with people. And those people, both the customer and the employees, need to be very clear, what does this company stand for? And I also think that they have to be agile. So I always refer back to sport. If you've only got one set of tactics and you think you can win the league 10 seasons in a row, you're going to struggle. Whereas you see the best managers, coaches, they're continually evolving. They recognize, you've got to stay fresh. You've got to meet whatever the task is and take a different approach to it. So, I think that's really powerful. So in terms of Rexel Canada, lots of employees. Every CEO has a favorite. Our CEO's favorite is a guy called Cole, and he's not even shy about it. He's I think he's probably even got as a screensaver in his computer. So who's on your screensaver at Rexel?
What an easy question to answer. I want to answer this metaphorically. It's all the people that open up our locations every single morning, that go to work and commit themselves to doing their job. That's actually my favorite person in our company, and it takes different forms and combinations, colors, genders, all the way through. That's actually my favorite person. And those are the people that you don't see every single day. They could be email addresses, little spots on an org chart, but those are my favorite people all the way through. And by the way, Cole's a very nice person. I do like Cole. So hopefully that answers your question, Mark.
And so are you the kind of the CEO who will spend time in the business, speaking to, from the forklift drivers to, right through to, the exec team? Is that your style? Because I know you also like the data and the numbers.
I think that's a good question. No, I like to know. I'm actually quite a people person all the way through, so I just like to understand the names behind the faces and the faces on the org chart, those personalities, all the way through. I've had somebody more recently wanted to do like a personality profile and just kind of figure out what I am. I'm terrified of that, so I'm not doing that. I do enjoy the numbers, but I also do enjoy the interpersonal relationships, because I think that's really what our business is founded on and predicated on, is those touch points throughout. So to answer your question, no, I've literally flying across the country this month and next month at all our regional kickoff meetings where we have all the organizations together, and really hammering home the message that, my one goal for everyone in those rooms and the whole country and everyone listening is I want everyone to make 100% of their bonus, use all their vacation, and get home safe every single night. And that's actually my goal all the way through. So I think to answer your question, yes, to know everybody. I won't know all 2,300 people, but I'm going to try. And there'd be a lot of text messages, and that's okay. I don't mind responding with an emoji every once in a while. So hopefully that answers your question.
I want to have my, Diary of a CEO moment. So Diary of a CEO is a famous podcast out of the UK. So this one podcaster usually asks this question. I'm going to ask you, as the new appointed CEO, what scares you the most about being in this new role?
There's two things. One is like cyber attack of any sort. Like that actually scares me every single day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm one click away from 2,300 people, and it might be me for all I know. Like, people are very clever out there. That certainly scares me. But the other one is really just like disappointing the people around us, like underperforming, maybe going out and not giving 100% one day and has an impact down the line. That truthfully does scare me the most, because I would hate to go to bed that night thinking that, because I went out a little late last night, that somebody else had to suffer because of my indulgence. Truthfully, and it's a very selfless thing to think about, but it's true. And those are the two things that scare me the most. One half is me, the other half is the outside world. But yeah, the cyber part, without a doubt. And I'm sure you guys see that in this business too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. Our measures to mitigate any sort of cyber threats are, bar none, like top notch. We have IT certifications in terms of cycles that we got to go through in terms of training and learning, and we have to apply that on a quarterly basis. I gotta stop clicking on the phishing links. I know it's something I'm working on, and
number one clicker here?
yeah, I just try to give everybody a chance. I think I'm too trustworthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm too trusting, I should say.
How many times have you won the lottery now?
Next question. Why am I saying next question here?
I tell you what, I remember, when we first started to get email in our jobs, and when you phishing back then and those kind of emails, you could spot them a mile off. Now, wow, some of those are, I like to think of myself as quite techie, and I'm like, is it? Isn't it? Especially when you get them on your phone and you're thinking, and I'm like, right, I'm never going to touch that until I get on my laptop, and then I'm going to click that. And then our IT department, they even try and catch us out. They'll see, and then we get a message saying, you all failed, and we're like, yeah, we're clickers. Yeah.
Sometimes I don't respond to emails I don't want, deciding it's actually phishing. I just didn't respond to you. I thought it was a phishing email. I find that really funny, actually.
But to anybody who's watching and is a bit worried about the enable culture of clickers, we are joking. But yeah, I think it's that fear of the thing that you can't control, isn't it? And you can do as much as you can to control certain things. Like you said, you want people to get home safe. I think, businesses are about people, and I think that's so important. But again, I know from working with past bosses that's one of their biggest fears, that call that there's been a workplace incident. Because you can do everything, but statistically it's going to happen. And they're the things that, unfortunately, the burden of the senior role, comes with. But on the flip side, what are the things you really look forward to?
You know what? I've said this before, but representing the 2,300 people, and I'm rounding up for argument's sake. I look forward to that, but also like sort of like executing on my predecessor's vision. Like him and I, Roger was his name, and he's still very much around, and I still report to him, but kind of continuing what he had, and then on the fringes start, imprinting sort of my vision going forward, right? I've been very, very lucky. I've inherited a very good, smooth running ship for all intents and purposes, which is a little bit different from my last few jobs where you inherit something that needs a little bit more fixing up. So this is a little bit different psychologically there. So for my number one goal is to steady the ship for the next 18 months. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're not changing ERPs. We're not changing names. We're not doing any of these things. It's to steady that ship. And over time, on the fringes, and the 1-2%, there'll be opportunities to impact my vision on that. And I'm slowly moving towards that. But the reality is we're a big ship. We're over $2 billion in revenue in Canada on the way to $3 billion. So to move that very quickly was a disservice to yourself because you're not. You're a Titanic at this point. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm looking forward to like making that imprint over the next couple of years all the way forward. And once again, ultimately to represent our people, but also the Canadian businesses we help and support, much like this condo behind you here. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one last question for me. How are we doing for time? Oh, yeah. Time for one good question, hopefully.
Okay, yeah. We started a little late. You guys can keep going.
Oh, we can keep going? Oh, yeah. Well, this relates to actually your last point, and you kind of answered it, but let's get it exactly buttoned down. So it must be difficult going into a role where so like you say, you've inherited a really, really well-run business, yes, with a great vision and everything like that. Is it challenging to you not to want to put your own stamp on things?
It is. You know what? If you'd asked me that question 10 years ago, absolutely. Like, I would have been more younger, a bit more aggressive. But I'm turning that corner in my life where that sort of that idea of like strategic patience really is embedded in me. I have a vision of what it is, but I also realize that you just cannot go in a business and change a name, change ERPs in the first day. There has to be things, other things you can impact on the business in the near term, medium term, and long term. So not frustrating at all. But 15 years ago, I would have been like, absolutely, I'm frustrated by this, and I would have had all that energy wrapped around that. But I realize now that life doesn't work that way. You have to be strategically patient and then bide your time. We're a smooth running organization. If I were to walk in with that mindset now, I'd probably be doing it a disservice and moving ourselves backwards versus forwards by having that aggression all the way through. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm trying to answer it as like succinctly as possible to you. So yeah. Oh, sorry, there you go.
No, that's a really great answer. And I think there's probably a lot of people watching who'll be thinking, with our C-suite or our exec, please watch this, because I've worked in so many businesses. As soon as you get a new leader, you're into a program of change again. And you never actually get to execution because you're always in change. And so for your employees, that's probably a very refreshing message of, hey, we'll just execute from here. Yeah. We'll keep doing what we do well. We'll get better at it as well.
Yeah, I have a saying internally, you know what? I bore this from the Cubs back when they won the World Series. We just want to be good at being average, right? And it takes discipline to go to work and do the right thing every single day. And when you see business processes break down, it's because people want to get a little too fancy, want to get ahead of that Gantt chart. They want to exceed for all the right reasons, and God bless them for wanting to do that. But being good at being average is the trick for us. The more disciplined we are every single day, just doing the very fundamental, unfortunately sometimes deemed as boring, is actually what makes us super successful all the way through. And all great sport teams do that. They go in, they know their role, they do it every day. And the trick is who does it the longest wins. And we've been around for over 100 years, so we've been doing it a long time. So I have no anxiety wrapped around that topic whatsoever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a post recently on LinkedIn, and somebody was talking about, just be really good at the basics. Keep practicing the basics, do the basics well. And when you think in like the sports world, think of a golfer. How much time do they spend learning the fancy shots versus just on the putting green? Just again and again and again, doing what basically is drives success. So really appreciate it. Reggie, have you got questions? No doubt. Here you go. Otherwise, you can have the mic now. You sure you want it?
Sure. So you mentioned, your predecessor. Ironically, you're going to be a predecessor for somebody else.
For sure. Yeah.
What would you, and obviously taking the angle of being patient, which you mentioned, what would you want the new person filling those big shoes of yours to come into, your previous role? When it comes to rebate management, what's something that you would want this person to think about or even implement that maybe you didn't get a chance to? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying that because I'm in the process now of trying to backfill my old role, right? What I was doing before. You might say, hey, what did you actually do? And we'd all laugh and we'd have a moment like that. It really comes down to being creative, like truly all the way through. You're bombarded with pieces of paper that have numbers on it. You're sitting there going like, how do I make this better? And everyone goes for the easy thing. I want a bigger number on a sales number, and that's it. But there's so much to be done in the margins. And when you get creative, that's when you can really unfold some of these packages to work for you. Just before this meeting, actually, I was on a call related to that, and I asked the gentleman in Quebec, what can we do around this particular topic over here? And we both met in middle ground, and it's a win-win for all of us. Without being creative, without getting your mind off of I need a dollar and a rate and that's the way I die, you're going to struggle in that role. And when I do find that individual to backfill myself, that's the number one piece of advice I have is creativity is not a bad thing here. Like being creative and being organizationally savvy to like execute on that is going to be an absolute positive for everyone all the way through. So hopefully that answers your question around what I would tell them. And also I'd also tell them in retrospect is to work with people around you. Like there's a lot of really good information out there. And sometimes people, when they get to a certain level, think, you know what, I'm in this tower, I know what I know now and this is the way I'm going to die. But the reality is you need to be learning all the way through. And the minute you stop, you become that person that you don't want to be. And that's what I tell that person, because there's opportunity out there and there's open source opportunity. You guys have provided a great amount of information for a lot of people. And kudos to you all for doing that, because before you guys were here, we all kind of suffered in silence a little bit. Now you're surfacing a lot of this information for a wider public. So I do appreciate this. And that was actually one of the biggest levers for me to be here today, besides the free lunch, and you're a mile away from my house. But that's one of the reasons, is to contribute back to a wider community. So good for you.
Jeff, honestly, no, the pleasure's all ours, man. No, thank you for being here. Listen, Jeff's you're a walking case study. Of what? Because you're gonna set the bar real high in terms of what an actual leader looks like. You have the makeup of it. You have the poise. You have the smarts. You have the smarts as well. And we highly respect you. And there's no doubt you're gonna do amazing for Rexel and the people working within that organization. And we're looking forward to obviously seeing your progress and being witness to your success and everything that you're going to be putting forward to.
I should say that. So.
We didn't do much. We didn't do. Oh, I know I didn't do much. I don't. Mark he's probably giving you no. Okay, no.
Mark for sure. Yeah.
He's giving you. Have you given him socks?
I gave him so.
Okay.
I got them. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
That's my contribution.
Yeah, and he gave you maple syrup.
Yeah,
That's true.
Right.
That's true. And places to go in Toronto advice.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah.
Cool. So, Mark, I'm gonna give this to you. I want you to close this one down.
Right.
Okay. I want you to stare in that camera, and I want you to tell the people, thank you for tuning in. See you next time, and don't forget to. And you got to fill in that blank.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay. So we're on that camera.
Well, that was an amazing session with none other than Jeff Moyle and Reggie. I'm going serious at the moment. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Can you tell this face? It's just blew my mind. And there was a reason as well why this was a special occasion, because not only was Jeff promoted, as we say, it was the first time we've had a guest on again. So, that's how much, we respect you, and, just a special guy all around. So thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to keep tuned for future broadcasts. Don't forget to always look both ways before you cross the road. And is that okay?
I had to set you up because I knew you're just brilliant for this. Like you were made for this.
This is it. I can evangelize safety as well as rebates, and we're going to be doing a little road trip. So with one of my other colleagues, Kale, who's been waving frantically at me, saying rebates on the road. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be on the road. We're going to be going to pricing events. We've got Mo from our team. We're catching up with her. We've got Tim Smith. We've got Deanne Hammer. We've got so many amazing people we're going to be catching up with. So stay tuned. And thank you so much for tuning in.